That's gotta hurt. Present Mike winced as Kirishima dropped a wicked punch on Uraraka, completely skirting around the smaller student's block. Uraraka stumbled back before falling onto her rear, then rolling back onto her knees while she regained her bearings, rubbing her likely bruised jaw. Man! She's got an iron chin for sure. So manly. I'm so pumped up. Kirishima punched his fists together and charged his stunned foe. The brunette shook her head clear and rolled at the last second, avoid the redhead's downward punch. She then jumped behind him, wrapped her arms around his gut, and performed a suplex, driving his head straight into the cement. Unfortunately for her, Kirishima was more than capable of shrugging that off. Whoa. Good move, Uraraka. Effortlessly, he used his hardened hands to pry her arms from his torso and jabbed his elbows into her sides, eliciting a sharp gasp and the thud of her dropping below him. However, Kirishima suddenly realized he couldn't feel anything. It was as if his body's weight had suddenly vanished and now he was simply floating in mid. Oh. Uraraka scrambled away from under her floating opponent and spat out a bit of blood from that last jab to her ribs. Nonetheless, she smiled with pride. Kirishima's a close-range fighter for sure. All I had to do was pull off one of the grapple moves Ojiro taught me and use my quirk while he was down. Without gravity, he's basically just a floating rock. Kirishima hissed as he tried to grab onto the ground and pull himself down, but only managed to kick his body further into the air. And Kirishima's completely de-gravitized. Look at him flailing around. Eraser, you seeing this? It's hilarious. Mike, who let you become a teacher? University of Phoenix. Online degrees are the future, yeha. Wiping the last bit of blood from her mouth, Uraraka held her fingertips against each other. Kirishima, you can't maneuver around like that, can you? He grunted in response, his face as red as his hair while he struggled with all his might to propel himself, to no avail. Can't give up. Not manly. Midnight giggled sadistically, oh, it's not up to you. Kirishima's unable to move. Uraraka wins. With that, we have all of the A block match UPS decided for the next round. The Jumbotron flashed an image of Uraraka's student profile before cutting to the tournament bracket, graying out all of the Block A losers while drawing lines connecting the next matchups. Block A Izuku Midoriya vs Yosetsu Awase Katsuki Bakugo vs Ochako Uraraka. With that, we'll start with Block B. Could we have the next set of contestants get to the arena? Uraraka pressed her fingertips together, release. A subtle pink glow flashed, and the floating redhead suddenly fell down. Ow! Kirishima groaned as he rubbed his face. Sorry. Uraraka rushed over and knelt by her friend, I should have warned you. My bad. He shrugged it off with a toothy grin, it's alright. I probably deserve it after getting beaten like that. I didn't even notice you used your quirk during the grapple. Nice work. Thanks, but are you sure you're okay? I know how badly you wanted to fight Bakugo. He waved her comment away, nah, it's fine. Like, sure, I'm a little disappointed, but this just shows me I have a long way to go before I can stand up against Bakugo and the others. I'm getting pumped just thinking about all the training I'm gonna do. He banged his hardened fists together and smiled. The two enjoyed their moment, until it was completely and utterly shattered by a squealing R-rated hero. Oh. I just love your enthusiasm. It's making me so we dash. And, it's time to get out of here. See you back upstairs, Uraraka. The two exited their respective tunnels. As she walked past the waiting area, Uraraka coughed and immediately hissed at the pain in her ribs, gingerly holding her sides. You should see Recovery Girl. That elbow jab looked painful. Turning with a start, Uraraka met Yairozu's gaze. Geez, you scared me. She sighed as her heart stopped racing after that last jolt. Yairozu giggled and stood up, sorry to startle you. Congratulations, by the way. That strategy was really smart. Ha, it was nothing. Just something I came up with on the fly. Not sure how much good it's gonna do against Bakugo though, the brunette pondered morosely. The deputy representative patted the shorter girl on the back, don't worry about it. I'm sure you'll do amazing. Besides, I'm sure Midoriya would be happy to lend you his notes if you wanted an outside perspective. Uraraka shook her head, I know, but I think I need to do this on my own. But what's wrong with accepting a little help from a friend? Even as heroes, we can collaborate with one another. Besides, classmates should help each other, shouldn't they? Uraraka shrugged, I know, but, it's like after USJ, I just have this emptiness, you know? Like I saw how helpful everyone was, Ida, you, Todoroki, Deku, I need to figure out if I can stand with them instead of relying on them, if that makes sense. Yaoyorozu's onyx eyes widened and she smiled softly, yes, that makes perfect sense. I'll be sure to live up to your example, Uraraka. There's nothing left to show. Hatsum announced as she exited the ring. Midnight's whip cracked, Hatsum is out of the ring. Yaoyorozu moves on to the second round. Yaoyorozu sighed with exhaustion as she collapsed onto her knees. So much for my promise to Uraraka. For the entirety of their match, Hatsum used a series of auto turrets and sticky bombs to keep Yaoyorozu at bay while she made a 10-minute pitch to the Hero Support Company representatives in the audience. Then, every time Yaoyorozu managed to destroy the turrets with a grenade or EMP device behind her protective shield, the pink-haired female just skirted away with her support gear and set up another set of obstacles. Truth be told, it was fairly impressive how obnoxious one person could be. Let's try to forget that and get some action from the next competitors. Straight out of Edgar Allan Poe's Wet Dreams, it's Class A's Fumikage Tokoyami. Hizashi, what the fuck? I'm an English teacher, Eraserhead. Poetry jokes are my forte. That wasn't the problem and I think you know that. Tokoyami groaned while pressing his hand to his forehead, cheeks tinged pink from his introduction. It's bad enough I'm in the sunlight, but now Mike Sensei is making derogatory comments at me. There's no revelry to be had here. Next up is the guy who looks like how Edgar Allan Poe feels. Hitoshi Shinso from Class Not A. Mike, you're offensive on so many levels, I think we might actually be arrested. Let them come. Shinso cracked his neck and placed his hands in his pockets, flashing Tokoyami a cocky grin with just a hint of ill intent. Before we start, I think I should apologize. Fumikage raised an eyebrow and opened his beak to speak, only to clamp a hand over it, recalling Ojiro's warning during the break. Don't speak to him. I need to maintain my composure and keep quiet. Luckily, it's so sunny that I don't need to worry about exciting Dark Shadow. The purple-haired teen's eyes widened slightly at the lack of response, but continued with his trademark smirk. Yeah, I feel just awful about that monkey dropping out. He was your classmate, right? Tokoyami's gaze narrowed at the insult directed at his friend, but he kept his cool, staying silent even after Present Mike announced the start of the match. The general studies student's eye twitched in annoyance. So the monkey told you the secret to my quirk, did he? Or did you figure it out yourself? That's impressive regardless. I thought birds had really small brains, but you must have a good-sized pea on your shoulders. Tokoyami clenched his fists in anger. Just stay quiet. Dark Shadow, knock him out. Silently summoning his shadowy companion, he guided the apparition towards Shinso, the latter's confident expression betrayed by his instinctive step backwards. I'm not much for hurting small animals, but I'll make an exception for a freak like you. Technically, I'm not responding to him if I don't speak. To him. Dark Shadow, make it hurt. The sentient quirk's speed doubled as he charged Shinso. You got it, boss. Shinso gulped and quickly went over his options. Let's see. Insulted classmate, check. Insulted him, check. Called him a freak, check. Damn it. Think, Hitoshi. What might send him over the edge? There's gotta be something. Come on, what else does he like? Wait a second. The taller boy regained his smirk and confidently remarked, black is an ugly color. Now you listen to dash, shit. Ojiro grabbed his head in frustration, damn it. I specifically told him not to let him get in his head. Uraraka just chuckled sheepishly, to think that deep his breaking point. Either way, it's still less embarrassing than Yamamo's battle, Siro commented, earning a quick elbow from Jiro. Apologize. She pointed at the dejected heiress. I'm sorry. Meanwhile, Izuku was scribbling like he'd never scribbled before. Tokoyami's weaknesses, updated, likes black too much. Shinso grinned as he felt the familiar tug of a successful mind control attempt. Instantly, Dark Shadow ceased moving forward while his owner tensed up with glazed eyes. Looks like Tokoyami's completely zoned out. What happened? Shinso's quirk is literally on the roll call sheet in front of you. At least try to be a good announcer. Hey, you try transitioning from a podcast to hosting the most popular event in the Eastern Hemisphere. Livian the air. Relaxing himself after the slight panic from before, Shinso commanded, now be a good birdie and fly out of the ring. Tokoyami quickly turned around and walked toward the edge. Except he wasn't moving forward. He was being anchored in place by Fumi. Why are you so quiet? Shinso's, and most everyone else's, eyes bulged out of his skull. You've got to be kidding me. Dark Shadow turned to his master and cocked his head. Fumi, are you dead? The purple-haired teen facepalmed. So the shadows actually got a separate consciousness? Great, how do I get him to talk? Yo, Smokey. Fumi. Hey, chicken. Fumi. 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 Shinso sweat dropped. I'm being ignored, and I've run out of insults. Dark Shadow approached his partner and started poking him in the face. Fumi. 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 Fumikage. Fumikage. Tokoyami. Lord of Darkness. Shadow King. He who shall not be named unless he so chooses to be named, because identity is a thing and it's beautiful. I'm running out of nicknames for you. There was no response as Tokoyami simply made another attempt to walk out of the ring, despite his avatar once again restricting his movement. Why were you trying to walk out of the ring? Did that guy hurt your feelings or something, is it? His quirk? If I beat him, will you talk to me again? Fumi. Worth a shot. Shinso's eyes widened. Wait, oof. In a flash, Dark Shadow rocketed forward and headbutted Shinso out of the ring and right onto his back. I suppose Dark Shadow, and by proxy, Tokoyami, wins the match. Present Mike scratched his cheek, unsure of how to process the last couple minutes. On the ground, Shinso grit his teeth and clawed his fingers into the grass. You hero course jerks. Think you're so much better than us just because you were born with quirks suited for this type of work. You don't know what it's like to be judged as something you're not, just because your quirk makes people uncomfortable. To be told you're suited for something you have no interest in becoming. Mister, I don't know your name, Dark Shadow meekly called. I don't know if you saw, but Fumi's head's shaped like a bird. I noticed. Shinso replied, nonplussed. Oh cool. Anyways, he got made fun of a lot for that. And because of me, he doesn't have any privacy or anything like that. And he can't let it get too dark, otherwise I take over his body, become an unstoppable force of destruction and violence. Wait, what? I'm just trying to say that every quirk comes with its own challenges. Wait, what do you turn into when it gets dark? But Fumikage never let it keep him down because he wants to be a hero, regardless of what other people say or the trouble I give him. So you should be like Fumi. I'm taking life advice from a floating shadow monster, honestly, not the worst person to turn to considering the hero course's English teacher. Thanks, Toko, Dark Shadow. Or, both. Tokoyami blinked as he felt his bearings return to him. What happened? Fumi. You're not dead anymore. Dark Shadow cheered. You know we're linked, right? If I die, you die. Dark Shadow gasped and retreated into the comfort of his partner's abdomen. Scary. Tokoyami groaned, you're such a coward when it's bright outside, but good work. Izuku wiped his brow and smiled at his newly completed entry for Tokoyami. Phew. Finally finished adding those last few notes. Phew. Kirishima sweat dropped. Uraraka whispered, I think Deku's got his own definitions for certain words. You think? Kaminari whistled while reading through the recently completed Hero Analysis for the Future, number 13. Like, where do you even keep these notebooks? Half of the class leaned in, the question they all had since they met Midoriya finally put forward. Oh. Well, I actually dash. And why's this one so burnt? Damn it, Kaminari. Class 1A screeched. Oh, Kaken sorta, blew it up. Izuku scratched his head. I did not. Bakugo roared from the front seat. Jiro shrugged, sounds like something you'd do. Yeah, it's completely in character for you. Shoji remarked. Even Todoroki would agree, and he doesn't talk to anyone. Azui added, and speaking of. Let's give it up for the fan favorite. Unlike his dad, he's actually number one at something. It's Class A's top husbando, Shoto Todoroki. Eat a dick, Mike. Endeavor roared from the stands. How about yours? Oh wait, did All Might take that from you, too? I'll kill you. I wish you W-. The mic suddenly cut out. The audience fell into a stunned silence, broken only by the slightest chuckle from the participant on the stage. Ahem. The sound of Aizawa clearing his throat replaced the sudden quiet. Sorry about that, but I've been told that Present Mic's been fired from his job as announcer. So here to replace him is UA's principal. What am I? Am I a mouse? Dog? A bear? But my true identity is Dash. Eraserhead interrupted, yes, very funny, Principal Nizu, but let's just get back to the fight at hand. But what am I? I have severe dysphoria. In a wonderfully bland monotone, Aizawa called the next competitor, Todoroki's fighting Mina Ashido. Start. The Pinkette chuckled sheepishly, man, I almost miss present Mike Sensei. What about you, to do Dash? Sorry about this. Todoroki tapped the ground with his right foot, unleashing a sizable, yet quick, stream of ice that rapidly wrapped itself around Mina's stunned body. CCC cold. She chattered. Midnight shivered and turned to the trapped Ashido. See, can you move? Let me think. Todoroki just shook his head, you know you can't. Just finish this up, Ashido. She grinned mischievously, but do I know? You're not giving me much credit, to do. The ice around Mina's arms and feet began to sizzle. After a few seconds, she shattered her prison and began running towards her opponent. Todoroki's eyebrows raised slightly, but he just sent another, slightly larger wave of ice at her. However, Ashido easily sidestepped this attack and countered with a spray of her own acid. Ducking under the veil, Todoroki hissed when a drop of acid caught his clothes, dissolving the fabric. She got me. In a flash of instinct, Todoroki waved his right hand in an arc, creating a huge pillar of ice that slammed right into the unsuspecting Ashido and sent her careening out of bounds. Eraserhead grunted, Todoroki wins. Eraserhead, that's not very good commentary. Try to say actual words instead of grunts. Nizu politely stated. I'm not good at this stuff. Sorry. You certainly don't sound sorry. No matter. My teaching philosophies tell me that the best and most educational commentary is practically identical to the constructive criticism a teacher would offer a student. Well, I'd say both are pretty similar in terms of their strengths and weaknesses. Both are really good with their own quirks and they both have major personality flaws that hold them back. Ashido's quick and skilled with her acid and her physicality is unmatched among the first years. But she's not very creative with application and her laid-back attitude rarely drives her to come up with reasonable strategy. Then Todoroki's quirk is one of the stronger ones I've seen. Plus, his own physical abilities are probably the strongest among the boys in his class. But he's so used to dominating his foes that if he ever fought someone who could match his power or avoid it entirely, he'd probably lose focus for a second. See? That wasn't so bad, was it? Nizu's cheery voice offered a welcome respite to the soul-crushing dreariness of Aizawa's. No. A. I'm really proud of you, Shota. You get an A. I'm not a student. Ha. Good one. After another quick match where Ida delivered the mother-of-all kicks to Aoima's face within the first 3 seconds, the quarterfinals were announced. Block A Izuku Midoriya vs. Yosetsu Awaze Katsuki Bakugo vs Ochako Uraraka. Block B Momo Yaoyorozu vs Fumikage Tokoyami Shoto Todoroki vs Tenya Ida. Aizawa coughed into the mic, which made for an interesting sound, before calling the first match, Midoriya and Awaze, get onto the stage. Izuku breathed deeply as he stepped onto the stage opposite Awaze. His quirk lets him fuse things that he touches. He's also really confident, but he's also really wound up, kinda like Kaken. For a moment, he chuckled at the thought of the next round and the potential swear-off between Bakugo and Awaze before slapping his cheeks and shaking the thought out. No. I'm gonna fight in the next round. I've already won 2 matches. What's one more? Start. Aizawa announced. Awaze cracked his knuckles and put his hands up, ready when you are, Midoriya. See cool. Izuku nodded and charged one for all throughout his body. Full cowl. Also, Sharingan. Immediately, Izuku went to work analyzing Yosetsu's form. He's got his palms open, probably so he can fuse anything on the fly. His footwork's unsteady, but it's set up for quick movement. He knows that the stuff he pulled against Zero and Suguraba won't work against a close-range fighter like me, so he's going for a quick evade, probably with a counter that'll limit my movement. So I'll just hit him before he can react. Izuku dashed forward in a stream of emerald lightning. He cocked his fist back and sent it flying at Awaze right as he got within reach. With a satisfying smack, Awaze's head snapped back from the blow. However, a small movement caught Izuku's eye, to which he reacted too late. Damn it, Izuku hissed as Awaze's fingertips brushed against the former's shirt and instantly fused, pulling the greenette along as the latter fell down. Ow! Jesus, that freaking hurt. Awase groaned, before smiling as he grabbed a fistful of Midoriya's shirt and fused the rest of his hand to it, but I've got you now. Midoriya pulled himself up, with great effort since Awase was still too stunned to stand on his own and seized the hand gripping his gym shirt. It's really fused at the molecular level. I can't pull it off. Gotcha. Awase grinned as his hand glowed and suddenly pulled away from Izuku's shirt, scrambling away to recuperate from the earlier punch. Without thinking, Izuku went for a punch, only to feel an odd sensation in his hand. Like it suddenly weighed twice as much, and was attached to the other arm, and his torso. Oh no. Looking down, Izuku nearly vomited at the grotesque body horror that was his hands. The fingers overlapped and twisted around each other like an even more horrific wormball. Simultaneously, his own fingertips were now stuck onto his shirt, effectively trapping his arms. When I grabbed his hand, he simultaneously unfused himself while fusing my fingers together and then fusing them to my shirt. All in an instant. He's right to be so confident, his technique and speed are amazing. Izuku pulled up and with a loud rip plus a surprising amount of effort, managed to tear the chunk of fabric fused to his skin out of his shirt, creating a large tear down the middle. Midnight squealed, yes. This is what I've been waiting for. Shirtless teen boys are literally my top search dash. And that's where I censor you. Aizawa said as he drowned out the dominatrix's, passionate words. Awase took one look at his opponent's exposed torso and whistled, respect. Thanks. Izuku blushed before dashing forward. Okay, keep the Sharingan on his hands and other exposed areas. Avoid those and I'll be fine. Like his torso, that's where I should. Awase unzipped his shirt and removed it, exposing his own torso. Yes. Midnight roared. Izuku's outstretched hands connected with Awase's chest, but he immediately rolled into the attack, fusing the fabric finger mishmash with his pectoral, then seizing Midoriya's elbows and pulling him closer. Not again, Izuku groaned as he was pulled down for the second time, except now Awase rotated at the last second so that he landed on top of Midoriya and pinned him down, and if you seriously don't think Midnight was panting heavily at this point, I don't know what to tell you. Awase pressed Izuku's arms to the ground and instantly fused them, once again trapping his opponent. Izuku struggled to lift his arms off the ground, but to no avail. Damn it. He only needs to touch me, and it completely changes the fight. How can I get out of this? Damn it, his eyes began to sting, whether from tears of frustration, dust, or something else, and he ran through his options. Awase stood up and dusted himself off. He can't move, right? Midnight licked her lips at the pinned boy, before cracking her flail, Izuku No. Izuku yelled as he flipped up and onto his feet, I can still fight. The angle's awkward as hell, but with 5% coursing through his legs, he stomped the cement until it cracked before lifting up as hard as he could. Gah! The ground beneath his feet cracked and he felt his back straighten as his arm, with a sizable chunk of cement, came free. Jesus, this is heavy. Awase's eyes bulged, holy shit, dude. What the actual fuck? That's freaking crazy. So much for being cool. Izuku steeled himself and controlled his breathing despite the insane weight on his arms. Let's try something else. He threw his hands up and suddenly pulled them down. With the added weight of the cement block, this sent him flying forward in a flip. Take this, Manchester Smash. Izuku brought his leg down in an axe kick over Awase's head, crumpling his foe. He flipped back up and prepared to attack again but was relieved to see that Awase was unconscious. Izuku Midoriya is the winner. Midnight announced over the audience's cheers, before licking her lips maliciously, but I'm the real winner today. She looked down at her phone, where she perfectly captured the moment Awase pinned Midoriya down. Oh, I'm gonna have some fun when this is done. After getting some help to Recovery Girl's office by the drones, it was just a matter of the unconscious Awase getting injected with a quirk disruptor to undo the fusing on Izuku's hands. You're lucky I brought some along, otherwise you'd be in here until the poor boy woke up. Recovery Girl chastised, exasperated at the repeated visits. Alright, sorry ma'am. Izuku rubbed his head in embarrassment. She sighed and sat down. It's not really your fault I suppose, but these disruptors are expensive. Only way I could make them was through Shota's quirk factor, and now that he's injured, it'll be a while before I can get any more. The loudspeakers flared to life, ahem. Speak of the devil. Uraraka and Bakugo walk onto the stage. Start whenever you feel like it. Izuku's eyes widened. Gah. I forgot her fights next. I'm gonna go watch. Thank you, again. Recovery Girl waved him off but gave a small smile once he left. He didn't injure himself this time. I hope he's learning. There was a loud explosion from the field. Though the odds of coming through unscathed next round are bad, to say the least. Bakugo held his breath as the smoke cleared from his opening explosion. Uraraka had made a mad dash right for him, only to be stopped by a quick blast. Now he was just waiting for the first sign of life. There, Bakugo zeroed in on a flash of blue in front of him and slammed it down. What the hell? It was just the UA gym jacket. That means... Uraraka appeared from behind Bakugo and extended her arms, fingertips outstretched for her quirk. He fell for it. Unfortunately for her, the hot-tempered teen was also the quicker of the two and he launched a flowing explosion that sent her skidding back, sore and short of breath. Come on. So CLO. Too slow. There wasn't even time to think as he ran forward to deliver another powerful blast, knocking Uraraka back several meters. She rolled along the ground painfully and coughed, but stood up just as fast as he attacked, grit emanating from her steely gaze. Acutely, she was aware of some commotion in the crowd and the loudspeakers. It sounded like there was booing and Aizawa-sensei was yelling, but she couldn't be sure. The only thing she could hear for sure was the ring from the explosion, the sound of her own heartbeat, and Deku's battle cry. I'm the Deku that never gives up. She charged forward and roared, only to take another blast to the face. Gritting her teeth and growling through the burning pain, she ran through the smoke, catching the boy off guard. Her fingers just grazed his body before he sent her flying once more. She coughed before going once more, I'm not done yet. Again and again, Uraraka charged Bakugo. Again and again he countered. However, he didn't move much. Lucky me. Thanks, Bakugo. The blonde raised a brow. Huh. What are you on about, round face? She hardened her look and pressed her fingers together, you'll see soon enough. From above Bakugo, all of the rocks and debris Uraraka collected while Bakugo was blasting away at her rocketed downwards like hundreds of little meteorites. What the actual fuck? Bakugo's jaw dropped. I knew she must have had some sort of plan, hangs around with Deku too much to not have one, but how many fucking rocks did she touch? Uraraka pressed forward, ignoring the pain racking her body. Whether he gets hit or not, I'll catch him with my quirk while he's distracted. But then Bakugo lifted his arm up and fired the largest blast any of them had ever seen from him, even bigger than the one he used against the Nomu. And that was with his gauntlet. The shockwave sent dust, and Uraraka, flying around the stage while the sound made the audience members clutch their ears in pain. Uraraka couldn't tell if the pain in her chest was from the blast wave or the soul-crushing realization that her trump card had utterly, and spectacularly, failed. That was the best I could do, and it still wasn't enough. She shook her head clear of her doubts, and the ringing noise, before standing back up for another go at it. Doesn't matter. I can't give up now. Not when I'm so close. For Deku, Mom, Dad, everyone. I need to win this. Bakugo grinned at his charging foe, alright. Let's get serious, Uraraka. Then her knees buckled. From the shadows of the Hosa's city alleyway, the hero killer smiled maliciously, his blade sleek with blood. On the ground beneath his spiked boots lay another false idol, mercilessly culled by his self-righteous vengeance. Ingenium sputtered, splattering more blood over his cracked, crimson slick armor. The last vestiges of his conscious struggled to maintain their grip on reality, but the pain, the unending pain, it refused to let him breathe. Stain smirked as he dragged his serrated sword along the ground, the metal scraping sonorously against the concrete, to still be awake after all that. You have the stamina of a hero, I'll give you that. Too bad it's wasted on the rest of you. Why are you doing this? Ingenium struggled to get up, but his body screamed in protest, aching from the overwhelming torture that was the hero killer's wrath. I detest this society that bastardizes its own ideals. Sells the title of hero to the first bastard with a flashy costume and strong quirk and then condemns those who do the right thing because it's the right thing simply because it takes away from the false savior's profit margins. Being a hero used to mean something, now there's only one real hero. Let me guess, it's you, you're the savior. Ingenium was barely getting the oxygen to survive, let alone talk, but he desperately needed to stall for time. The sensors in his suit would have alerted someone at his agency by now. Someone knew where he was and how grave the situation was. Stain chuckled before burying his sword in the armored hero's shoulder, earning a roar of agony. I'm no hero. I'm the necessary evil that'll purge society of fakes like you. Then, once my mission is complete, I'll allow myself to die. In the distance, Tensei heard a siren and grinned, sorry, but, your mission's ending, yearly. Stain cocked his head before his eyes widened in realization as the sirens got closer and closer. Then his face broke out into a grin. I say I have a few seconds before I need to leave. He locked eyes with Ingenium and the latter felt true, unabashed, life-endangered terror. That's plenty off time. Uraraka. Izuku burst into her waiting room, sweat pouring from the long run from the Class A stands. Man, I guess I lost, huh? She giggled sheepishly. Huh? His sweat dropped at the cavalier greeting. Are you okay? She smiled and looked away. I mean, it sucks to lose, but you're always going forward. Seems kinda stupid if I don't move on from this as well, you know? Izuku nodded. Clearly, she wasn't alright, but he didn't want to pry. For a while, the two just sat in silence, allowing the sounds of the battle outside keep the situation from becoming overly awkward. Tokoyami wins. Next group, please. Aizawa called through the mic. Wow, Yaoyorozu lost. Izuku whistled. Man, I know how much she wanted to leave a good impression. I hope it was a good fight. It was. Really fast though. Uraraka nodded, remembering the two's promise to each other earlier that day. Feeling tears prick her eyes, she was saved from a breakdown by the ringing of her phone. Huh? Missed calls from Dad. Here, I'll let you take that. I'll try to wish Ida luck before his match. Izuku gave a reassuring smile before walking out of the room. She looked at her phone and took one deep breath before answering, hello? Ochako. A rich and deep voice replied. A uniquely comforting one. Hey Dad, sorry I didn't answer earlier. It's nothing. Your mom and I saw your fights on TV. You were incredible out there. The words filled her with a temporary elation, but that feeling quickly vanished, but it only matters if you win. And I got totally destroyed. Hey, come on now. There's always next year. And I dare a pro hero to tell me to my face that my baby girl wasn't the bravest person out on the field today. But the scouts are looking for top contenders. I mean, what's the rush? Well, I have to, for you and for Mom. The other end was silent for a while before Mr. Uraraka spoke again, his voice gentle and soft. Ochako, you know you don't have to go crazy over us, right? Heck, you probably worry more about us than we do for you. He chuckled sheepishly. After all, your mom and I know you're going to be an incredible hero. Izuku was already down the hall, but he could still vaguely hear the sound of choked sobs behind him. Of course she's sad. She has every reason to be. I want to pay her back for all of her help, but the best thing I can do right now is focus on the next match. He steeled himself and continued to Ida's waiting room, only to find it empty. Guess he left already. Oh, Midoriya. Izuku turned to the sound of the voice. Oh, Yaoyorozu. He gave a reassuring smile. Sorry about the match. Are you okay? She smiled slightly and nodded. I'm fine. Just a little shell-shocked. There was something about her expression though. An unusual subdued quality to her emotions. And for the heiress, that was saying something. You sure? Certainly don't look fine. She averted her gaze but nodded again. Then she plastered on a sheepish smile. Truth be told, I'm a little famished. Care to join me? He nodded. Yeah, that sounds good. Don't want to go into the next fight hungry. Right. You're fighting Bakugo, how are you feeling? Izuku sighed. Nervous, I guess. I haven't thought too much about it, truth be told. But honestly, I'm ready. More than any other fight, this is the one I know I can win. Everything I've done, all that training after the battle trial and USJ, in a way, has been so that I could catch up to Kaken and beat him, for real this time. Yaoyorozu smiled. Genuinely this time, I'm really glad. He could stand to go down a peg or two, truth be told. And besides, I think Todoroki or Ida would both rather fight you than him. Izuku chuckled before the loudspeakers announced, Todoroki wins. Midoriya and Bakugo to the stage. Already? Must have been a short match. Yaoyorozu noted. Yeesh. I hope Ida's okay. Man, it sucks when your friends lose, huh? Well, I guess that means it's my turn to go out there. Izuku waved goodbye. Good luck. I'm rooting for you. She waved him off with a smile before it, unbeknownst to him, promptly fell. As Izuku walked to the stadium entrance, his heart racing a million miles an hour, he came across yet another friendly face. Oh, Ida. The tall teen smiled. Hello, Midoriya. I suppose your match is about to begin. Izuku nodded. Yeah. But sorry about your fight. I know how badly you wanted to win. Ida waved it off. Of course winning would have been nice, but I'm honestly just content to have done right by my brother. I did my best and that's all I could have honestly hoped for. After getting in a proper dose of ripping on Kaminari, Uraraka turned to the higher bleachers. What about you guys? Who else is on the Deku squad? Tokoyami raised a hand. Midoriya allowed me to get this far. I won't neglect his good deed by denying him support now. Tsuyu followed suit. Midoriya's nice. Ribbit. Presumably, Toru was raising her hand as she chirped, ooh, I like Midoriya, or at least I like his sister. To some surprise, Yaoyorozu chimed in as well. Midoriya's proven a good friend. I don't wish to choose sides, but... Then to everyone's surprise, Todoroki raised his hand. Perplexed by his classmates' shocked faces, he elaborated, I want to beat Midoriya myself. You won't get the chance. Tokoyami smirked, egging his classmate on, only to receive nothing but a small huff in response. Meanwhile, Mineta glowered, damn it, Midoriya. You got most of the girls on your side. I swear, I'll never forget this. And I'll never forgive GH. The grapist fell silent as a tongue whipped across his face in a vicious smack. Shut up. It's about to start. Ribbit. Midnight climbed onto her stage and prepared her whip. Alright boys, I know you're both excited to get on with it, so I'll make it quick. You two ready? Both contestants nodded. She waved her flail. Start. For a moment, neither of them bothered to move, as if daring the other to act first. Then there was a bright flash from either side and a veritable cascade of explosive sound. Izuku dashed over Bakugo, who was rocketing forward himself, green lightning arcing across his body at breakneck speed or to the speed of his own heartbeat. Bakugo skid to a halt, as did his opponent. They turned to face each other with a roar, the former brandishing an already glowing right palm while the latter cocked his fist back. It was the explosive teen's move though, as the blast sent Midoriya flying back to the opposite end of the stage, saved from a ring out only by his desperate clawing. Panting, Izuku righted himself and shook his body free of the jolt from that last blast and his mind free of the jitters that remained. This is happening. This is really happening. Let's think, with full cowl, I'm about as fast as him. With the Sharingan, I can keep track of his movements. No problem. Just like any other fight. Bakugo got onto the balls of his foot and let his palms crackle a little bit to relieve themselves of the excess sweat that was building up from his sheer anticipation. Deku's fast, not as fast as me at full speed, but those eyes of his are a real problem. Good time as any to use. That move. Bakugo sneered as he shot forward once more. The Sharingan flared to life and Izuku instantly began to move to the side, his eyes trained on Bakugo's advancing form and his outstretched hands. If I can go around this explosion, I can catch him off guard. Izuku pushed himself to the side then immediately forward, moving around his foe in 2 quick bursts of speed. He pulled his fist back again and waited, time moving in slow motion thanks to his ocular quirk. Right when he notices me and turns, that's the perfect angle to hit him. We're so close to the edge, I might even get a ring out on him, too. True to Izuku's plan, Bakugo turned his head around slightly to get a good look at his adversary, only to catch a fist straight to the jaw. Spittle and a slight, but respectable, for Izuku at least, amount of blood flew from Bakugo's jaw as he gasped in pain. But his jaw morphed beneath Izuku's fist into a savage grin. Then the entire battlefield lit up and a shrill ring filled the air. Izuku shut his eyes and clutched his ears, both sensory organs screaming in pain. What was that? How did Kaken do that? Ha! My body's been dealing with the recoil from my explosions for years. It'll take more than some weak ASS punch to knock me down. There was another, more sonorous boom as Bakugo gripped his opponent's right forearm and shoulder and hit them both with some of his most powerful explosions. Izuku roared as he went flying back, feeling his forearm sear and his shoulder dislocate. He landed painfully, unable to open his eyes, barely able to hear, and completely floored by the pain in his arm. Tears threatened to flood his aching eyes and he vaguely noticed his erratic breathing growing worse by the second. Die like that, Deku. Made that stun grenade move especially for you. All I had to do was make the explosions as big as I could while limiting the power and boom, perfect counter for that stupid quirk. Real flashbangs can make you blind for up to 10 seconds. So with those extra sensitive eyes, Deku's gotta be out for a while. Izuku felt his head get fuzzy from the pain or the lack of oxygen or some grim combination of the two. Damn it, breathe. Do not go into shock. All Might gripped his hair nervously, his heart hammering at the sight of his pupil's collapsed form. Young Bakugo wasn't kidding, that two-move combo was nearly flawlessly executed to target young Midoriya's weaknesses. But he can't go down from that, he's worked too hard for this. Get up. Get up. Come on, damn it. All Might muttered under his breath. In the stands below, Inko was tightly gripping her daughter, barely able to stomach the sight of her son in distress. Eri wriggled uncomfortably when the Jumbotron displayed a close-up of Izuku's pained expression. Midnight eyed the heavily panting, heavily injured student on the ground. Midoriya, can you still go on? Yes. Just say it. Grit your teeth and say it. Tisk, damn it Deku, give me some trouble. What? Can't do shit without your capture tape, is that it? Come on, it doesn't hurt. That bad. Stop breathing so fast, just get up and keep going. TSK. So much for making that power your own. The borrowed power, he remembered. All Might's power, All Might. Izuku succumbed to shock and blacked out. Get up, Izuku. Izuku opened his bleary eyes in the darkness and saw nothing. Nothing save for 8 shadowy figures lined up side by side, their features hidden besides their piercing eyes. The one furthest to the left looks familiar. Izuku noted the figure's shaggy hair and frail form. It was the one to the farthest right, however, that spoke for the figures, reaching out to Izuku with a shadowy hand. Fight on, Izuku. You carry the will of all of us. I promised All Might. I promised Kaken. Remember Izuku, you are not alone. Izuku gasped and scrambled to his feet, full cowl surging back to life while the Sharingan flared across his irises. I'm okay. I can keep going. What was that? How long was I out? Midnight eyed the teen suspiciously. He looked like he went into shock, but now he's raring to go. She nodded at him to continue the fight, but muttered into her earpiece, Cementos, let's get ready to stop the fight, just in case. Right. I feel the same. Izuku grinned at his friend. Wow. He's being very mature about this. Then Ida started shaking violently. Gah. What's wrong? Izuku started panicking. Oh god, he's having a mental breakdown. Ida simply took his phone out. I'm receiving a call. What kind of a reaction was that? And why's everyone getting phone calls right now? It's my mother. Sorry, I need to take this. And you need to go. Best of luck, Midoriya. Ida waved his friend off as he went down the hallway. With a wave goodbye and one more deep breath, Izuku turned around and exited the hallway, once more walking onto the grassy path leading to the battlefield. He climbed the steps and gulped in anticipation. Or nervousness. Likely both. Across the battlefield, Bakugo had also just walked onto the stage. Their eyes met, and time seemed to freeze. This wasn't an argument by the gate or a training exercise or a confrontation in the street. This was a true and proper fight. Not between old friends or enemies. This was, to paraphrase Uraraka, a fated battle between rivals. With one final deep breath, Izuku stepped forward. Ahem. Aizawa cleared his throat directly into the microphone. Principal Nizu, do you have any commentary before we begin? Now, Shota. You sound so robotic. Try not to speak like you're reading off of note cards. The principal chided. I am reading off of note cards. The note cards you wrote for dash. Semantics. Nizu exclaimed, anywho, I have absolutely no idea who either of these two students are, so why don't you take care of the commentary, Eraserhead? Then why did you write me a card asking you to commentate? There was no answer. Fine. Bakugo is nothing short of a combat genius. His instincts, physicality, and quirk are all perfectly suited for battle. His biggest limitation is his ferocity, and that's honestly a bigger blessing in this tournament than a handicap. Midoriya, on the other hand, is an analytical fighter. His quirk and natural wait-and-see mindset make him perfect for counterattacking. But if and when he gets overwhelmed, he tends to lose his composure and go all out. Nizu's voice suddenly popped in, ooh. I remember him now. He's the reason our infirmary is so poorly stocked nowadays, right? And the one All Might passed one for all onto. The displeasure was evident in Aizawa's tone. Yeah, Midoriya's quirk tends to backfire. Then the teacher's voice picked up, but so far, his performance today is miles ahead of where he was just a few weeks ago. Wow, kind words from Eraserhead. So do you think he'll win today? No. Care to explain why? Aizawa groaned, but relented. These two have a history. For Bakugo, it's a furious motivator to dominate. For Midoriya, it's a desperate desire to match the other. In the battle between these two, specifically, Bakugo's trying to win and Midoriya's trying to prove himself. One's certainly more noble than the other, but that's not gonna do a lot of good when your opponent's dead set on crushing you. Bakugo stretched his legs out with his elbows as his teacher and the principal continued their commentary. Based on the audience's reaction, it must have been interesting, but he couldn't be bothered to pay attention. He'd been waiting for this fight since the battle trial and he wasn't about to get distracted now. Hell, you might say he'd been waiting for this fight since he was 4 years old, staring down the extended arm of his best friend as they both stood in that river. It's because I'm jealous of you. His eyes met his opponent's, who was also getting in a last-minute stretch, his expression just as determined as Bakugo felt. I'm going to show you that I can surpass you. Bakugo wasn't stupid by any means. He understood what Deku felt. Why he kept chasing him despite the decade of abuse and torment. Their argument at the UA gates had seen to that. He knew that this battle wasn't about sorting through what exactly their issues were. Midoriya understood Bakugo's inferiority complex and Bakugo understood Midoriya's jealous admiration. This battle wasn't about laying their cards out. It was about finishing the damn game. Kaken. Midoriya spoke first, standing up straight after completing his warm-up. You told me I wasn't a match for you then. I'm gonna show you how far I've come since. Bakugo sneered, please. You think being a little faster and making your hand glow makes you strong enough to beat me? Fuck off. I'll finish you in 2 moves. In the stands, Classa collectively sucked in a breath. Kaminari shivered, man, this is literally my second least favorite matchup. These two are crazy. Who's your least favorite? Jiro asked, earphone jacks at the ready in case he said something problematic. Dude. Bakugo and Todoroki. They'd fuck the stadium up. Kirishima gulped, I can feel how tense those two are. That's so freaking manly. Uraraka pounded her fists, I know, right? Who are you rooting for, Kirishima? Geez, I don't know. I mean, Midoriya's my guy, but Bakugo's my bro. It's a real struggle. Mina poked his cheek, boo, Kiri. That's no fun. We're all part of the Baku squad, right? We need to support our leader. Baku squad? Uraraka cocked her head. Mina nodded enthusiastically, cute, right? Just came up with it. It's me, Kiri, Siro and Kaminari. Oh, and Bakugo, duh. Wait, how did I get roped into this? Kaminari twitched at the thought of having to associate with the fiery-tempered blonde. The pinkette waved his words away. Oh Kaminari, don't get caught up in the minutiae of it all and just enjoy life. That doesn't answer my question. Kirishima smiled fondly at his friends before turning back to Uraraka. Well, I guess that settles it. What about you? You're Team Midoriya, right? She nodded fervently, of course. Deka squad all the way. Aoyama suddenly appeared next to the brunette, absolutely twinkling, and me, mademoiselle. Jesus, dude. How do you even do that? Like, is part of your quirk teleporting? Kaminari joked, receiving a considerable death glare in response. Kaminari, I can't believe you would betray les trois cassetaires like that. You're the opposite of a silly boy. You're a dull boy. Aoyama huffed, flapping a cape that appeared out of thin air, somehow. Dude, I didn't ask to be on the Baku squad, damn it, now I'm saying it. Kaminari mentally facepalmed. Jiro turned to the electric type, les trois, what? Kaminari groaned, it's some stupid club Aoyama made for us and Midoriya. We all hurt ourselves with our quirks so, man, it's dumb. We made friendship bracelets. Aoyama brandished his wrist, adorned with a lightning bolt-themed bangle. And they were supposed to be private. Kaminari hissed, blushing as his classmates examined, or in Jiro's case, laughed uproariously at, the bracelet he designed for Aoyama. Bakugo stared at his newly revived opponent. Deku looks like he's about to faint and suddenly he just shoots up. Damn. He burst into a wide grin, now this is interesting. Then a flash of neon green passed through the red of Izuku's eyes, giving Bakugo pause. Unfortunately for him, Izuku was as serious as he could get at the moment, Detroit Smash. Without a moment's hesitation, he rocketed forward and sent Bakugo reeling with a strong left jab. Learning from his mistake last time, however, Izuku quickly pulled back and kept some distance, eyeing his opponent as carefully as he could. The blonde wiped some blood from his mouth and winced slightly. Damn, nerd punched the same spot. He's trying to wear me down, huh? Time to let him have it. Bakugo exploded forth and seized Izuku's shirt in the blink of an eye. Here's that throw you like to use. He pulled the greenette over his shoulder with all of his force, preparing to blast him into the ground the second he was off of the ground. Then a hand gripped the back of his neck strongly. Izuku's eyes were operating faster than they ever had before. It's like everything's even slower than before. And I can see a few moves ahead, not just one or two. What's happening? Damn it, ignore that for now. Time to put my training to good use. Once he seized the back of Bakugo's neck with his good hand, he quickly arched his back and bent his legs down, so he'd land on his feet. And once he did, he pulled on Bakugo with all of his force while simultaneously crunching his abdominals, so his knees could wrap around the former's neck. I'm not alone. Ojiro taught me how to beat that throw. And Ashido made me flexible enough to do this. Izuku yelled as he slammed his legs, and Bakugo's head with them, into the ground. He got back to his feet and jumped away to take stock. Right shoulder is dislocated, but is that the... Beneath the surface of his skin, he'd always been able to vaguely make out some of the musculature with his Sharingan. But now, the muscle appeared somewhat clearer. And beneath that, he could see the faint outline of bone. I can see my bones. How? What the hell hap? Focus. He mentally slapped himself before pulling his right arm over the back of his head with his other arm. Okay, I can see my arm lining up with the socket. One little tug and... He pulled his right arm towards his left shoulder and felt a strong pop as well as a flash of incredible pain. But it quickly subsided, and he could see, and feel, that his arm was back. Yes. I love my quirk. Unfortunately, his forearm was badly burnt and stung with the familiar ache of a fracture. No punches for me. But there are other ways to win. Krav Maga videos, don't fail me now. Bakugo was just now getting up, his head buzzing from the impact. Deku. Needless to say, he was pissed. Stun grenade. He roared as he fired another large flashbang. I saw that coming a mile away. Izuku cheered as he cupped his ears and kept his eyes closed. Not wanting to risk opening his eyes yet, Izuku jumped forward blindly. Ha! Dumbass! Bakugo kept quiet to avoid giving his position away but congratulated himself as Deku attacked with his eyelids firmly shut. Moving to the side, he readied an explosion right as his opponent landed. Suddenly, Izuku shot to the side, exactly where Bakugo was, and caught the explosive teen with a powerful elbow to the ribs. What the fuck? Bakugo gasped as the wind exited his body. You're probably used to it so you didn't really notice. But, Izuku opened his eyes triumphantly and grinned. Nitroglycerin has a scent like sugar. So after an intense fight dash, Izuku uppercut Bakugo's exposed right underarm, dislocating the appendage in retribution. You smell just like caramel. Kaminari's eyes bulged. Dude, I love everything that's happening right now. Bakugo growled in pain as his arm pressed against some nerves, but ignored the ache to launch a powerful blast that scorched much of the field beneath and around him, forcing Deku back. Ack! Izuku hacked and coughed from the acrid smoke, but could barely contain his elation at seeing his lifelong tormentor finally on the ropes. If I keep using my right elbow, I won't be at much of a handicap at all from the burns. Despite the dislocation, he can still fire explosions off. I know he has a bit of blowback though, and that last blast wasn't even big and it definitely hurt. He's shaking, slightly at least. He charged ahead, a furious smile plastered across his face. So if I want to stop his explosions, I need to really damage his arms. Recalling the session Ojiro spent drilling Wing Chun into him, Izuku got in close and furiously beat down on his weakened opponent, using his elbows and shoulders to keep Bakugo's arms on the outside, preventing any direct explosions. After a particularly devastating series of blows to his biceps and elbows, Bakugo roared and headbutt his foe, sending the latter reeling. D damn you, DKU. His arms were killing him, his jaw was sore, and now his brain was pounding against his forehead. He'd never been beaten this bad. But goddammit, Katsuki was having fun. I can't believe that, quirkless Deku, of all people is gonna make me do this, but you earned it. With a ferocious snarl, Bakugo pushed through the pain and fully extended both arms at his still-floored opponent, now die. From both arms, he fired the largest explosions he ever had before, their combined strength eclipsing even that of the one he used against Uraraka in the round before. Bakugo roared as the blowback from his attack ripped his muscles apart, but he maintained his footing and followed through. The smoke hung around for a while, blanketing the field in an ashy fog. For several seconds, there was nothing but the fading boom, the sound of rubble falling back to earth, and, much to Bakugo's chagrin, the smell of caramel. Then Izuku burst from the side, enveloped in the glow of his quirk. If I hadn't moved when I did, I would have been toast. Even then, I was still down for a bit. But that's the worst of it. It'll take more than that to get me, Kaken. He cried triumphantly as he made another mad dash towards his lifelong opponent. The latter tried to lift his arms but felt them scream in protest. Gah! Overdid it that time. Damn it, move! Bakugo settled for a kick, which Deku swiftly dodged while kicking out the former's other leg. Hagakure said the best attacks when you get your opponent off guard are fluid combos that chain together like a dance. And thanks to Ashido, I really know how to dance. Spinning quickly, Izuku swiped a chunk of cement from the ground and slammed it into Bakugo's head, breaking skin despite the latter's insane toughness. Katsuki howled and fired a series of weak, but rapid explosions from his palm that forced his opponent back once more, a particularly nasty one catching Deku on the back. He coughed up some blood and struggled to get up, his vision blurring from the repeated head trauma. Izuku panted heavily, his lungs screaming from the repeated smoke inhalation, his entire body burnt and aching heavily, his eyes sore from the encroaching limit of the Sharingan. I attacked his head repeatedly, practically disabled his arms and he's still not down. Keikaken. Izuku coughed, staring at his foe with one eye shut as blood from where he was headbutt earlier started seeping over the organ. This is why I admired you so much. Nobody else wanted to be a hero as much as you did. Nobody worked as hard for it as you did. Bakugo sneered, if that's the case, why are you even here? Because. Izuku clenched his fists as full cowl surged around him, I want it even more than you do. He stared at his opponent with a gaze that would make lesser men run screaming, first, I'm going to make you acknowledge me as a hero. Then, I'll surpass you. He took off into a run, stumbling at first before pushing past his exhaustion to break out into a full sprint. Bakugo looked at his opponent, no, rival, and steeled his resolve. So he wants to be better than me? Give me a break. He roared as he opened his palms downwards and fired, skyrocketing up. I'm just getting started. Bakugo fired a carefully timed series of explosions from either hand, spinning faster and faster and faster until he was surrounded by a swirling, raging column of wind. Izuku's jaw would have dropped had it not been captured in a grin. This is it. He's pushing past his limits and his injuries, to take me down. He's actually going all out. No. This is going beyond even what he's capable of. His arms felt like they were going to fall off, but Bakugo wouldn't stop now. Not when Deku was just getting fired up. How Tizer dash, Bakugo aimed his hand at his opponent and fired one more massive blast, impact. Izuku jumped up to meet his foe and thrust his right hand forward, the burns vanishing beneath the furious glow and crackle of green lightning, Chidori. The two attacks collided in an ear-splitting boom and the shrieking cry of 1,000 soaring eagles. The blast wave cascaded across the stadium, sending Midnight flying off of her stage and coursing past the spectators in a violent torrent of power. The smoke and dust took a long time to settle down, much to the spectators' dismay, but once it cleared, both figures were clearly visible, one on top of the other. Katsuki panted heavily as he pinned Izuku down, one foot stepping on his left arm, one shin holding down both legs, one hand keeping pressure on the right arm, and the other hand pressed securely to his face. Deku would have been impressed by the efficient hold had he not been so exhausted. For a bit neither of them said anything, too focused on catching their breath. Then the blonde choked out one last sentence, I win. Then, Katsuki fell to the side and collapsed limply, completely unconscious. Izuku was stunned but slowly stood up, wincing when he felt his right arm shift. He looked to the silent crowd, the frazzled Midnight, his wide-eyed mother and sister, the vague outline of his mentor and the colorful bunch that was his friend group. Finally. He raised his left arm above his head and grinned, his Sharingan fading away as the sixth Tomo retreated into his pupils beneath a glistening layer of tears. Finally. The crowd erupted into uproarious applause and cheers while Midnight proclaimed for everyone to hear. Finally. Izuku Midoriya wins. Todoroki walked down the hall leading to the field. Bakugo and Midoriya had decimated the field, so it was a bit of time before Cementos had it ready to go again. But now that it was his turn. Still, he had trouble getting the preceding battle out of his mind. The fight was spectacular in every sense of the word, like something you'd see in a sci-fi or superhero movie. But it wasn't the sheer spectacle that captured his attention. It was the pose Midoriya struck to celebrate his victory. With one arm raised triumphantly over his fallen foe. He reminded me of Shoto. Todoroki's eyes narrowed and his fists instinctively clenched. Without even bothering to turn around, he knew who his visitor was. You didn't even need to feel the intense heat that accompanied him. Ironically, it was the ice in his voice that gave it away. What do you want? Endeavor sighed, look, this rebellious phase of yours has gone on long enough. It's time to grow up and start using your flames. No. Turning only enough to send his best death glare at his father, Todoroki spat, I'll never use my left side in battle. The number 2 hero sighed, Fumikichi Tokoyami. What about him? The heterochromic teen eyes narrowed. His weakness, you see it, yes? Todoroki looked away again, already predicting the direction the conversation was headed. What about it? With your quirk, you could end the battle in seconds. Instead, you choose to limit yourself to half of your strength. If this was a real battle against a villain, it would be blatantly irresponsible not to use your full power. Shut up! Todoroki yelled, fists shaking. You, of all people, do not get to lecture me about heroism. I'll defeat Tokoyami and then I'll beat Midoriya and then, you'll be nothing to me. I'll become a better hero than you ever were, and just with mom's power. Rage passed across the flame hero's face, but quickly vanished for smugness. Really think it'll be that simple? That boy has power commensurate to All Might. If you seriously think you can match that by limiting yourself, it'll be your loss. I thought my loss was your loss, right? I'm just your tool, after all. Todoroki remarked coldly before continuing his march towards the grass and the rebuilt battlefield. Behind him, Endeavor growled before sighing in resigned frustration and walking back to the viewing area. Todoroki stepped onto the concrete and nodded his go-ahead to Midnight. Right off the bat, Tokoyami sent Dark Shadow forward in a quick straight attack. Easily sidestepping it, Todoroki slammed his right foot into the ground and narrowed his eyes at his opponent. Sorry, but I need to blow off some steam. Recovery Girl growled as the stadium crowd began cheering, presumably for the other semi-final battle. Just what she needed, another injured kid. What were you thinking? She barked at the two teens, no, children, in front of her. Pointing a cane at the recently reawakened Bakugo, she hissed, you have a grade 3 concussion. Probably some brain damage, though that might be a pre-existing condition considering what you decided to do to your arms. Bakugo looked away and huffed but muttered something that sounded vaguely like an apology. Izuku snickered, which was a mistake. And you? Recovery Girl growled, your already damaged and crooked arm, is broken, again. And for some reason, all of the skin on it is either burnt or ripped off by that idiotic attack you seem to enjoy relying on. Don't even get me started on the state of your lungs or your back. Do you understand the meaning of the word, careful, or should I send you back to elementary school? Based on your judgment, you both might belong there. Sorry. Izuku gulped before lying back in his bed, eyelids already dropping as his body finally got some much-needed rest. Next to him, Bakugo was doing much the same in his own bed, blinking quickly in a vain attempt to stay awake. Recovery Girl sighed. They're both really exhausted, huh? Well, no more scolding, it's time to play doctor. She wheeled the now sleeping/unconscious Katsuki into a separate area and cordoned it off with the curtains. She was about to do the same for Izuku when the door burst open, young Midoriya. Rushing to his protégé's bedside, Skinny All Might frantically pestered the peeved physician, how is he? Is he injured permanently again? What can I do to help? Does he need some food? Tell me where to go and I'll do dash. Recovery Girl slammed her cane on the symbol of peace's head, calm down, would you? This is a hospital room for crying out loud. And Bakugo's sleeping in the back, she hissed. Sorry, but how is he? She gave a slight smile. He's annoying, but it's certainly nice to see him so worried about his student. He's nothing like Sorahiko. Recovery Girl cringed at the memory of the retired pro hero and his militaristic methods. He's not good, to be honest. He's too exhausted for me to use my quirk on him, and even if I could, there's a lot of damage that might not even heal completely. All Might sighed into his hands. So what can we do to get him ready for the final match? There was a solid smack as the cane found itself once again slammed against his skull. You hear that he's got permanent damage and all you can think about is the next round? Why, you're the reason he's even pushing himself this hard in the first place. He's doing this to live up to your expectations. No, you're wrong. All Might's voice was surprisingly quiet and serious, even for his skinny form. Maybe for the other rounds, he was pushing himself on my behalf, but this fight was his and his alone. And in his defense, he didn't really injure himself much in this fight. He's definitely getting better. The doctor sighed and sat down, exasperated. Be that as it may, it doesn't change the fact that he gets injured too often for comfort. Even if I can somehow heal him enough to be ready for the next round, who's to say he won't get hurt even worse? He won't. All Might grinned confidently at his pupil. That boy's worked his butt off to get to the point where he doesn't need to rely on 100% to win his battles. He might get a few scrapes here and there, but I know he's giving it his all to win and win the right way. She shook her head, but relented. Fine. If you're that sure, I'll take your word for it this time. But this better not happen again. Recovery Girl warned, brandishing her cane threateningly. He held his hands out and laughed sheepishly. Got it. Then the entire stadium shook. What was that? Was that the match? All Might dashed out of the room. Finally, some peace and quiet. The blonde popped his head back in. Oh, by the way, Midoriya's family and friends are probably headed this way. Oh no, Recovery Girl shuddered in preparation. Meanwhile, behind the curtains in the back, a half-awake Bakugo tried to decipher the fragments of what he had just overheard. Deku was fighting for someone else. Who was that guy? He sounded familiar. Aizawa's eyes bulged out of his skull at the gargantuan glacier his student had summoned to immobilize Tokoyami. I knew Todoroki had a lot of power, but this is ridiculous. Even Principal Nizu's aloof demeanor slipped for a momentary expression of utter shock before retreating beneath the familiar, if frustrating, facade of mischievous self-assuredness. TT Todoroki wins. Midnight chattered through her teeth below, much of her body caked in frost from the overwhelming force of the attack. Her costumes. Definitely not helping with the temperature. Maybe don't wear a micron-thick bodysuit to a high school event. Next time that he cleared his throat and spoke into the microphone, we're gonna take a short break to clear the field and then we'll continue with the finals. Standing up, Aizawa made his way out of the announcer's box. I'm gonna go check on Midoriya and Bakugo. Still haven't gotten any word if he's good to go for the next round. Nizu smiled knowingly. You're allowed to be worried about your students, you know? I wrote about it in one of my books, Teaching for Total Do-Dash. Aizawa slammed the door shut before the principal could finish and made his way to the hospital wing. On his way, however, he passed a suspicious-looking All Might peeking at the battlefield. What are you doing? He turned around with a start and clutched his chest. Geez, Eraser. You scared me half to death. Pretty sure I'm closer to death between the two of us. He gestured to his thoroughly bandaged arms and head. Ha. Considering who you're talking to, that'd be an accomplishment. That doesn't answer my question. I thought you'd be fawning over Midoriya or something. What? I just wanted to see what the commotion was before heading back. Gah. All Might clamped a hand over his mouth and mentally berated himself. The mummified hero just shook his head. Smooth, look, I don't really care about your guy's weird bond, but is he gonna be able to fight in the next round or not? Hopefully. The symbol of peace's sheepish look and nervous hand gestures didn't bode well. Groaning in exasperation, Aizawa walked past his colleague and to the medical wing, where he could already make out some sort of loud commotion. He opened the door, no small feat considering his lack of upper appendages, and instantly regretted his life choices. My baby. Inko Midoriya wailed, holding her son to her chest so tightly, it was probably breaking some new bones. Mom, please let me go, it hurts. Midoriya murmured weakly through his mother's sobs. To the side of his bed, Uraraka and Kirishima were trying their best to coax the older Midoriya into releasing her son. In the corner, Yaoyorozu was playing with Eri, or at least attempting to, given the small child's repeated attempts to scamper into her protector's arms. This was a mistake. Ahem. Aizawa cleared his throat, drawing everyone's attention and simultaneously halting their actions, save for Eri, who used the momentary pause to run to Midoriya and climb into his bed. "Hey Aizawa-sensei." Uraraka and Yaoyorozu immediately stood at attention. He waved them away before walking to Recovery Girl, "Just need to know if Midoriya can continue or not." "I don't recom dash." "Yes. I'm good to go." Izuku exclaimed, panic all over his face at the thought of an early exit. His teacher looked the boy over. His face had a few scratches and his right arm was wrapped in enough bandages to make a capture weapon. His torso was bare, the tattered remains of his shirt lay on the floor beside his shoes, save for a layer of gauze around his middle. And in between coughing or adjusting his arm, probably for any semblance of comfort, his eyes kept fluttering like he could fall asleep at any moment. Overall, he looked like shit. "I doubt that very much," Aizawa remarked. He looked to the matriarch, "What do you think?" Inko averted her gaze and bit her lip, conflicted emotions passing across her face. "I don't like this, Izuku. I don't want you to keep getting hurt." Recovery Girl nearly jumped up and down for joy. "Yes. Yes. Finally, some people with sense. He's too tired for me to heal, so if he wanted to fight, he'd be going in exhausted and with half of his body broken. You'd be against Todoroki, you know." Aizawa added, staring at his student dead in the eyes. He could see the expression in Midoriya's eyes change as he said that. "Makes sense. Putting on a bad show would ruin your chances with the pros more than a good show would help. And against Todoroki, he'd need to be on all cylinders just to get AS. I'm ready." Midoriya stated matter-of-factly, his gaze steeled. "Really? This was a bad idea." Aizawa knew it. But the fire in the boy's eyes was too much to ignore. "Huh. Guess that's why All Might likes the kids so much. You have 15 minutes to get to the field." He paused at the door before turning slightly, and Midoriya. "Why yeah. Good stuff out there." He exited the hospital room without another word, barely even acknowledging All Might with his ear pressed against the outside wall. He made his way back to the announcer's booth and nearly fainted at who was there to greet him. "No. Not you." Izuku smiled and prepared to sit up, only to feel a firm hand press him down. "Mom?" Inko shook her head sadly at her son. "I'm sorry Izuku, but I don't feel comfortable with this." But Mom." Aizawa-sensei said it was fine." "No, he said you had 15 minutes to get ready. How do you expect to for this?" She gestured to his broken body, "to be healed enough to fight by then." "But I have to fight Todoroki." Kirishima interjected, "Dude, I know you want to win and all, but this is your health we're talking about." "Really, Midoriya? You're a finalist already. The sports festival isn't worth doing more permanent damage to your body. Especially in your first year. You guys, it's not that simple." Izuku looked down in frustration. "Todoroki, I can't tell you guys everything but, he needs this. And if I don't go out there, I don't want to take that chance." The room fell into a stunned silence as everyone contemplated what Izuku just laid out. Outside, All Might inhaled sharply, marginally aware of the Todoroki household's problems. "You're trying to help Todoroki?" Uraraka squeezed out, flabbergasted at her friend's intentions. "By kicking his ass." Kirishima ignored the elbow Yaoyorozu sent his way for the language. Izuku shrugged, "I don't know what I'm gonna do, to be honest. But I need to set some stuff straight with him, and if fighting him is what it takes, then I'll do it." Shaking her head, Recovery Girl pinched the bridge of her nose. "Be that as it may, your body's in no condition for that. You won't even have the chance to open your mouth if you try to go out there." Eri looked at her brother curiously. He looked like he was in pain, but his determined expression made it clear regardless that still wanted to help the other boy. "I'll protect you if you're scared. I promise, it's all gonna be okay now, because I am here. If I can control it, then I could save a lot more people, right?" For weeks, she saw Izuku work himself to the point of collapse, training and practicing his quirk. And now he could control it. But then why couldn't he save this person? He's hurt, but it's not his fault. He just wants to help people. She wordlessly wrapped her arms around her brother. "Deku and I." He looked down at her. What's up?" Eri tried to speak, but words failed her. Instead, she buried her head in his side and hoped for the best. "If I can control it, then I could save the one person that matters." Aizawa checked his watch and sighed. "That's time. Don't see him on the field." "Sorry Midoriya, but..." "Wow, Eraser. The other guy's late, huh? Groaning, Aizawa replied to his new co-commentator, you don't have to keep saying that every 5 seconds. You can be silent, too. Ms. Joke laughed merrily, geez, no need to be so harsh, Eraserhead. We're dating after all. We definitely are not. Well, Nizu asked me to sub for him, so. He would have buried his face in his hands if they weren't covered in a cast. You don't even work for the school. This is borderline treasonous. PFT. You're so funny. Maybe I should get Present Mike to come back to listen to your jokes. Let's just get on with it. She nodded before scratching her head, so, what do we do if the kid's a no-show? Aizawa turned on his microphone and cleared his throat, ahem. B-dash. Whoa. He's here. Miss Joke cried into his microphone, knocking Eraserhead aside. True to her word, Izuku Midoriya was walking onto the concrete stage, fitted with a brand new gym shirt and looking healthy, all things considered. In fact, he looked just about perfect. Aizawa's eyes narrowed. No bandages in sight. His body's moving normally. How did he get healed so fast? On the ground, Izuku locked eyes with Todoroki and nodded. The dual quirk user responded by rolling his shoulders and preparing his left foot. Midnight smiled at the latest arrival and squealed, "Uhu, I just can't wait to see what delicious image you leave me with this time." Cracking her whip, she exclaimed as loud as she could, "If both challengers are ready, then let the final match of the UA Sports Festival's first-year stage begin." If you like this content, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you later, bye bye.